Hello and welcome to the Smart English Club podcast. I am so happy you are here with us today. My name is Nora, and today is a very important day for me.
Hello, everyone. It is wonderful to have you here with us today. My name is Mr. Bennett.
Today, you are going to listen to my very first job interview in English, from the very first hello to the very last handshake.
Listen carefully and enjoy the conversation in slow and clear English. Let us begin. Good morning. You must be Nora. Please come in and take a seat.
Good morning. Yes, I am Nora Fletcher. Thank you very much for inviting me today.
It is a pleasure to meet you, Nora. My name is Mr. Bennett. I am the marketing manager here, and I will be conducting your interview today. Would you like a glass of water before we begin?
Yes, please. That would be very kind. Thank you.
Of course. Here you are. Now, please take your time and make yourself comfortable. There is absolutely no rush.
Thank you. I have to be honest with you. I am feeling a little nervous. This is actually my very first job interview.
Thank you for telling me that. And I want you to know that it is completely normal to feel nervous. Almost every candidate who sits in that chair feels the same way, even people who have been to 20 interviews before.
That is very reassuring to hear. Thank you.
My goal today is not to test you or to catch you out. My goal is simply to get to know you, to understand who you are, what you enjoy, and whether this role would be a good fit for both you and for us.
That is a much friendlier way of thinking about it than I expected. I think I was imagining something much more formal and much more frightening.
I understand. Interviews have that reputation. But really, an interview is just a conversation between two people who are trying to find out if they would work well together. That is all it is.
I like that very much. A conversation. I can do a conversation.
Exactly. Now, let me tell you a little about how today will work. First, I will ask you some questions about your background and your experience. Then I will ask about your skills and your working style. And at the end, you will have plenty of time to ask me any questions you have about the role or about the company.
That sounds very clear. Thank you for explaining the structure. It helps me to know what is coming.
You are very welcome. Before we start, may I ask, did you find the office easily this morning?
Yes, I did, thank you. I actually arrived about 20 minutes early because I did not want to risk being late, so I waited in the coffee shop across the street for a little while.
That is very sensible. Arriving early shows excellent planning. And I have to say, the coffee shop across the street is my favorite place in this whole neighborhood.
It is lovely, very warm and welcoming. I had a cup of tea to calm my nerves.
A very good strategy. Right, shall we begin?
Yes, I am ready.
Let us start with a very common opening question. Nora, could you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Of course. My name is Nora Fletcher, and I am 24 years old. I recently graduated from university with a degree in business and communication. During my studies, I discovered that I really love marketing, especially the creative side of it, writing, designing campaigns, and finding new ways to connect with people.
That is a lovely introduction. What was it about marketing specifically that captured your interest?
I think it was one particular project in my second year. We had to create a marketing campaign for a small local business, a family bakery that had been struggling. We designed everything, the social media posts, the posters, the special offers, and after 3 months, the bakery told us their sales had increased by almost 30%.
That is a remarkable result for a student project. How did that make you feel?
It made me feel incredibly proud, but more than that, it made me realize that marketing is not just about selling things, it's about helping real people. That family bakery was a real family with real worries, and our work genuinely helped them. That is when I knew this was what I wanted to do.
That is a wonderful answer, Nora, and I can hear the genuine passion in your voice when you talk about it. That comes across very clearly.
Thank you. I really do care about it.
Now, tell me about your education. What did you study exactly, and what did you enjoy most about it?
I studied business and communication at the City University. It was a 3-year program. The first year covered the basics of business, economics, and communication theory. The second and third years were much more specialized. I chose to focus on digital marketing, consumer behavior, and content creation.
Which of those subjects did you enjoy the most?
Definitely content creation. I loved learning how to write in different styles for different audiences, how the same message can be communicated completely differently depending on who you're speaking to. I found that fascinating.
That is a very valuable skill in marketing. Being able to adopt your voice for different audiences is something that many people find difficult, even after years of experience.
Thank you. I've also been practicing that skill outside of my studies. I run a small blog where I write about books and reading. It has about 2,000 regular readers now.
2,000 readers, that is genuinely impressive. How long have you been running the blog?
About 2.5 years now. I started it as a hobby in my second year of university, but it has taught me an enormous amount about writing, about social media, about understanding an audience, and about being consistent even when you do not feel motivated.
That last point is very important. Consistency is one of the hardest things in marketing and in almost any career. The fact that you have maintained a blog for 2.5 years tells me a great deal about your discipline.
Thank you. There were definitely weeks when I did not feel like writing, but I always did it anyway because I made a promise to my readers and I did not want to break it.
Let us talk about work experience now. Have you had any jobs or internships during or after your studies?
Yes, I have. During my final year, I completed a 3-month internship at a small marketing agency in the city. I worked 2 days a week alongside my studies.
What kind of work did you do during that internship?
I worked mainly on social media content. I helped write posts for 3 different client accounts. I also helped with scheduling the content and preparing simple monthly reports showing how each post performed.
So you have practical experience with social media management and basic analytics. That is very relevant to this role. What was the most valuable thing you learned during that internship?
I learned that marketing in the real world is very different from marketing in a university classroom. At university, we had unlimited time and unlimited budgets in our imagination. In the real world, you have a small budget, a tight deadline, and a client who changes their mind on Friday afternoon.
That is a very accurate description of agency life. How did you handle those situations?
I learned to stay calm and to ask questions early. When a client changed their mind, my first instinct was to panic. But my supervisor taught me to pause, ask what exactly they wanted, confirm it in writing, and then move forward. That simple process saved me a great deal of stress.
That is excellent advice, and it sounds like you learned it well. Have you had any other work experience?
Yes, I also worked part-time in a clothing shop for 2 years during my studies. It was not a marketing job, but I think it taught me a lot.
Tell me about that. What did it teach you?
It taught me how to talk to people, all kinds of people, happy customers, unhappy customers, people who knew exactly what they wanted, and people who had no idea. I learned to listen carefully and to be patient, and I learned that being genuinely helpful is always better than trying to push a sale.
That is a very mature perspective. And I would argue that customer-facing retail experience is far more valuable to a marketing career than most people realize. You have spoken to hundreds of real customers face-to-face. That is real market research.
I had never thought of it that way, but you are absolutely right. I did learn a great deal about what makes people decide to buy something.
Now, what would you say are your strongest practical skills? The things you can actually do well today?
I would say writing is my strongest skill. I write clearly and I write quickly. I am also very comfortable with social media platforms and scheduling tools, and I have good basic skills in design software. I can create simple graphics and edit images to a professional standard.
And are there any skills you would like to develop further?
Yes, I would really like to improve my data analysis skills. I can read a basic report, but I would like to understand the numbers much more deeply. I want to be able to look at data and genuinely understand what it is telling me about customer behavior.
That is a very honest and very useful answer, and I'm pleased to say that this role would give you a great deal of opportunity to develop exactly that skill.
That is wonderful to hear. That is one of the reasons this position appealed to me so much.
Now, I would like to ask you a question that many candidates find difficult. What would you say is your greatest strength?
I would say my greatest strength is that I am extremely reliable. If I say I will do something, I do it. If I say I will have something ready by Thursday, it will be ready by Thursday. I think reliability is not the most exciting quality, but it is one of the most valuable ones.
I could not agree more. Reliability is enormously underrated. Talent is wonderful, but I would choose a reliable person over a brilliant, unreliable one every single time.
Thank you. That is very good to hear.
And now the more difficult version of that question. What would you say is your greatest weakness?
My greatest weakness is that I sometimes spend too long trying to make something perfect. I will rewrite a paragraph 5 or 6 times when it was already good enough after the second attempt. It can slow me down.
That is a very honest answer. And how have you been working on that?
I have started setting time limits for myself. If I am writing a social media post, I give myself 15 minutes. When the 15 minutes are finished, I stop and I move on. It felt very uncomfortable at first, but it has helped me enormously.
That is a genuinely practical solution, and I appreciate that you did not simply name a weakness and stop there. You explained what you are doing about it. That tells me a great deal about your self-awareness.
Thank you. I think being aware of your weaknesses is the only way to actually improve them.
Let us talk about how you like to work. Do you prefer working alone or working in a team?
Honestly, I enjoy both, but for different reasons. I do my best creative thinking when I am alone. Quiet time helps me to focus and to develop ideas properly. But I love working in a team when it comes to refining those ideas. Other people always see things that I have missed.
That is a very balanced answer. How do you handle disagreement within a team?
I try to listen first before I respond. Very often, a disagreement happens because two people are actually talking about slightly different things. So I ask questions to make sure I truly understand their position before I explain mine.
And what if you still disagree after that?
Then I explain my reasoning clearly and calmly, and I let the team decide. If the team chooses a different direction, I support that direction completely. I don't think it's helpful to keep arguing after a decision has been made.
That is exactly the right attitude. Disagree honestly, then commit fully. That is what makes teams work well.
Thank you. I learned that during my internship, actually. I watched a senior colleague handle a disagreement that way, and I remember thinking, that is how I want to be.
How do you handle pressure and tight deadlines?
I make a list. It sounds very simple, but it genuinely works for me. When I feel overwhelmed, I write down every single task. Then I put them in order of urgency, and then I do the first one. Somehow, seeing everything written down makes it feel much smaller and much more manageable.
That is a wonderful technique. And you are right that it sounds simple, but simple systems are usually the ones people actually stick to.
Now, Nora, I have asked you a great many questions. It is your turn. What would you like to ask me about this role or about the company? Thank you. I do have several questions prepared, if that is all right.
Please, ask as many as you like. A candidate who asks good questions is always a good sign.
My first question is about the day-to-day work. What would a typical week look like for the person in this position?
That is an excellent first question. A typical week would begin with a team meeting on Monday morning where we review the previous week and plan the current one. You would then spend most of your time creating and scheduling content across our social media channels. On Wednesdays, we usually have a creative session where the whole team develops ideas for upcoming campaigns. And on Fridays, you would help prepare the weekly performance report.
That sounds like a wonderful mixture of creative work and structured work. I like that there is a rhythm to the week.
Yes, we found that having a predictable structure actually gives people more freedom to be creative because they are not constantly wondering what they should be doing.
My second question is about learning and development. You mentioned earlier that this role would give me opportunities to develop my data skills. Could you tell me more about how the company supports learning?
Certainly. Every employee has a personal development budget each year, which can be used for courses, conferences, or books. We also have a mentoring system where every junior team member is paired with a senior colleague who meets with them twice a month.
That sounds genuinely valuable. Having a mentor would mean a great deal to me, especially in my first full-time role.
It makes an enormous difference. Most of what you learn in your first year comes from watching someone experienced and being able to ask them questions without feeling embarrassed.
My third question is about the team itself. How many people work in the marketing team and what are their roles?
There are 6 of us in total. Myself as the manager, 2 content specialists, 1 designer, 1 data analyst, and 1 social media coordinator. The role you are applying for would work most closely with the social media coordinator and the designer.
That is a lovely size for a team. Small enough that everyone knows each other well, but large enough that there is a real variety of skills.
Exactly. That is one of the things I value most about working here.
My final question is a little more personal, if that is all right. What do you personally enjoy most about working at this company?
What a lovely question. Nobody has asked me that in a long time. I think what I enjoy most is that people here genuinely listen to each other. I have worked in places where junior employees were expected to stay quiet. Here, if you have a good idea, it doesn't matter whether you joined yesterday or 10 years ago. Your idea gets heard.
That is exactly the kind of environment I would love to work in. Thank you for sharing that.
Now, before we finish, I would like to discuss salary expectations.
Do you have a figure in mind for this position?
I have done some research on typical salaries for a marketing assistant role in this city. Based on what I found, the usual range is between $32,000 and $38,000 per year. As this would be my first full-time position, I would be very comfortable somewhere in the middle of that range.
That is a very well-researched and very reasonable answer. And I can tell you that the budget for this role is $35,000 per year, with a formal salary review after 12 months.
$35,000. That is exactly what I was hoping for, and I appreciate that there is a review after a year.
Yes, we believe strongly in reviewing salaries regularly rather than making people ask. There are also some additional benefits: 25 days of holiday plus public holidays, a pension contribution, and the personal development budget I mentioned earlier.
That is a genuinely generous package. Thank you for being so clear and open about it.
Of course, I think being open about salary early saves everybody a great deal of time. Now, do you have any concerns or hesitations about the role that I could address?
The only thing I would mention is that I am aware I do not have a great deal of full-time experience yet. I want to be honest about that. But I would also say that I learn very quickly, and I am not afraid to ask questions when I do not know something.
I appreciate you raising that, and I want to be equally honest with you. We were not looking for someone with years of experience. We were looking for someone with genuine enthusiasm, good communication skills, and the willingness to learn. Experience can be taught. Attitude cannot.
Thank you. That means a great deal to hear.
Let me explain the next steps. I will be meeting 2 other candidates this week. After that, I will discuss all 3 interviews with my colleagues, and we will make a decision. You should hear back from us by the end of next week at the latest.
That is very clear, thank you. Would you prefer that I contact you if I have not heard by then, or should I simply wait?
Please feel free to send me an email if you haven't heard from us by next Friday. It is not a problem at all. In fact, it shows continued interest.
Thank you. I will make a note of that.
Nora, I want to say something before you leave. You told me at the beginning of this interview that you were nervous and that this was your first interview. I would not have known that from your answers. You were thoughtful, honest, well-prepared, and you asked genuinely excellent questions.
Oh, thank you so much. That means more to me than I can say. I was so worried about how I would come across.
You came across very well indeed, and whatever the outcome of this particular process, I want you to carry that confidence into every future interview you attend. You are more ready than you think you are.
Thank you, Mr. Bennett, truly. Even if I do not get this position, I will leave here today feeling much more confident than when I arrived.
That is exactly what I hoped you would say. Thank you very much for coming in today, Nora. It has been a real pleasure to meet you.
Thank you so much for your time and for making this such a comfortable experience. I look forward to hearing from you.
Take care, Nora, and well done today.
Thank you. Goodbye. And that brings us to the end of today's episode of the Smart English Club podcast.
I hope you enjoyed listening to Nora's very first job interview. Everything you heard today is real, practical English that you can use in your own interviews.
If you listened all the way to the end of this episode, you just completed a full 25-minute natural English conversation. That is a real achievement, and you should feel proud of yourself.
Job interviews are one of the most useful English situations to practice. And now you have heard exactly how one sounds from the very first greeting to the very last goodbye.
Now here is your challenge for today. Write one sentence in the comments below about your greatest strength. For example, my greatest strength is that I am very reliable. Or, my greatest strength is that I learn quickly. Just one sentence. We read every comment and we will reply to you personally.
If you enjoyed this episode, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the Smart English Club podcast. Turn on the bell notification so you never miss a brand new episode every single week.
Thank you so much for spending this time with us today. Keep going, keep listening, keep learning.
Until next time, take very good care of yourself.
And goodbye from both of us.
Goodbye, everyone.